Ladies and gentlemen, I hereby inaugurate a new series, the Constitution of the United States of America. Unbelievable! Mr. Cropper has well over 1,000 videos posted and not a single video on his version of the Constitution of the United States, which I've rewritten twice. Once in high school, a bit sophomoric maybe, fine. But I did learn an awful lot about it going through it with a fine-tooth comb, and later I did it again in college, rewrote it again with my updated knowledge. So, it's an old story to me. The Constitution's an old boot, been around it. So I'm going to go through. I don't think it'd be fair to jump into the Constitution because I'd have to spend so much time explaining the Articles of Confederation. So let's start with those. We're going to step through and skip some parts of them, but go through the other parts, and then we'll be able to save a lot of time when we get to the Constitution itself, and we'll just be able to do the Constitution in my version of it rather than having to talk about the history of it. So, agreed by Congress November 15th, 1777, ratified and in force in 1781. 1777, so that's a year after the Declaration of Independence in 1776. So it was how we glued the thing together while we were fighting. Article 1. The style of this Confederacy shall be the United States of America. And style is S-T-I-L-E. Article 2. Now, Article 2 and Article 3 contradict each other. Let us take a look. Article 2. Each state retains its sovereignty, freedom, and independence, and every power, jurisdiction, and right which is not by this Confederation expressly delegated to the United States in Congress assembled. So the United States assembles in Congress. That's the identity of the group of the Confederacy. Article 2 says each state retains all of its powers that isn't expressly delegated to Congress. Unless it's very specific, it remains with the state. Article 3, the said states hereby severally enter into a firm league of friendship with each other for their common defense, the security of their liberties, and their mutual and general welfare, fine, binding themselves to assist each other against all force offered or to attacks made upon them or any of them on account of religion, sovereignty, trade, or any other pretense whatever. So, does that give power for the Congress to delegate more authority to itself, saying that this is a delegation of authority to itself and in time of war we can do more, or not? It's a little unclear. Article 4. The better to secure and perpetuate mutual friendship and intercourse among the people of the different states in this Union, the free inhabitants of each of these states, the paupers, vagabonds, and fugitives from justice excepted, so everybody else, the good people, shall be entitled to all privileges and immunities of free citizens in the several states. So common citizenship among all the states in the colony, in the Confederacy. And the people of each state shall free ingress and regress to and from any other state, and shall enjoy therein all privileges of trade and commerce, subject to the same duties, impositions, and restrictions as the inhabitants thereof respectively, provided that such restrictions shall not extend so far as to prevent the removal of property imported into any state to any other state. Now that's a very dry technical thing we won't go into, which it's not even an issue if you believe in free trade and free commerce and stuff. It's just a really small technical thing about bickering about trade controls and stuff. Let's not worry too much about that, but then, provided also that no imposition, duties, or restrictions shall be laid by any state on the property of the United States or either of them. Now, is that the birth of federal property? That any particular state cannot lay duties, restrictions, or impositions on the property of the United States. So there is a category of property that belongs to all the states as one, and the individual states don't have power over that property. That is federal property? Okay. Born in Article 4. If any person guilty of, still in Article 4, next paragraph, If any person guilty of or charged with treason, felony, or high misdemeanor shall flee from justice and be found, he shall be, through the governor, be sent back. That's extradition. Skipping to the next bit. Full faith and credit shall be given in each of these states to the records, acts, and judicial proceedings of the courts and magistrates of the other states. An integrated judicial system, so that you don't say, well, sir, you are now in the state of Maine. This is not the state of New Hampshire, and we do not care for you to bring up precedents of the court proceedings of a New Hampshire court. Actually, according to the Articles of Confederation, what goes on in the New Hampshire courts does have some bearing. Article 5. For the most convenient management of the general interests of the United States, delegates shall be annually appointed in such a manner as the legislatures of each state shall direct, to meet in Congress, so the original Congress was appointed, not elected, to meet on the first day of November in every year. Now it's the second day of November that we vote, or something like that, isn't it? But members were appointed, not elected. And these members, with a power reserved to each state to recall its delegates. So they appoint the members, they send them, and they have the power to recall them, or any of them, not all of them, could recall one or two, at any time in the year, and to send others in their stead for the remainder of the year. So they have the power to switch and choose their delegates as they see fit. No state shall be represented in Congress by less than 2 nor more than 7 members. Now, today we have a different system. The big states with a lot of people, and the little teeny states with not very many people have a conflict, right? The big states have power if we use a population vote. The little states have an equal amount of power if we just use a one state, one vote system. So, the little states are in favor of one state, one vote. The big states are in favor of voting on population basis and having, congressmen according to population. So what did they do? They just limited the number. They said, in no case will a state have more than 7. So if you're a really small state and you get 2, don't worry. The next state, the biggest a state can be is 7. It's not going to dwarf you that much. Now, we decided on a different system in the Constitution, didn't we? We went with a bicameral House with one apportioned by population and one apportioned by just 2 states, 2 votes per state. That's the Senate. It's 2 votes for each state. And the Congress is a vote for each 39,000 voters or whatever. So that California's got 19 or 32 or 68 congressmen or whatever, and Utah has 6 or 5 or whatever. That's a better system, I think, than the one they originally had of just 1 house, which is easier and simpler than 2. It's a lot easier and simpler. So, an appointed house without an opposing house. It was the sovereign entity in the government. There weren't 2 houses, Congress and Senate, to bat stuff back and forth. In this next bit here, we have an early American precedent for term limits. No person shall be capable of being a delegate for more than 3 years in any term of 6 years. So there's early version of term limits. Shall any person being a delegate be capable of holding, nor shall any person who is a delegate be capable of holding any office under the United States for which he or another of his benefit receives any salary, fees, or emoluments of any kind. So if you're a delegate to Congress, you can't hold any other position in the United States apparatus, bureaucratic situation. Each state shall maintain its own delegates, I guess monetarily, in a meeting of the states, and while they act as members of the committee of the states. In determining, so your expenses, I suppose, would be paid. In determining questions in the United States in Congress assembled, each state shall have 1 vote. Now, we saw just a moment ago how each state sends between 2 and 7 delegates. So, your arguing power and manpower differs from state to state, but your vote does not differ. You all have 1 vote for each state. Freedom of speech and debate in Congress shall not be impeached or questioned in any court or place out of Congress. And the members of Congress shall be protected in their persons from, so Congress tries itself.